If you are a grade 11 student that does IT or information technology, then this video is to help you talk about your practical assessment task, or your PAT. And this is the 2025 edition. So for those students who are doing grade 11 in 2025, this is the video for you. So let's go talk about what is the PAT and what it is that you need to do. So here they have a description of the PAT. Basically, the PAT, the way I like to describe it, is a way to show off all the skills you've learned throughout the year, actually throughout grade 10 as well. So it's a way to really demonstrate those programming skills that you've learned. And so the point is you need to show off everything that you've done this year. Every new concept or new tool that you've learned in programming, you need to find a way to showcase it in your PAT. There are other benefits to doing the PAT. For example, it's going to help you obviously revise for exams because you are practicing those skills, seeing how they work in the bigger picture. And the PAT tends to count about 25% of your final mark. So basically, it's the same as an exam. So it can really bring your marks up. If you put all your effort in, it's easy to get a mark higher than what you normally get for your tests or exams. And so in this way, the PAT can really bring your mark up. But the same is also true for the reverse. If you neglect the PAT, if you don't put in the effort that you should, it is possible that the PAT brings your mark down because you haven't done enough work. So really put the effort into this PAT and really use it as a way to bring that mark up. And the other benefit of doing this grade 11 PAT is it's going to give you an introduction of what to expect in grade 12. A lot of the things that we do in grade 11 for the PAT is very similar to what we do in grade 12. So this way we almost are practicing to make sure that our grade 12 PAT is really top notch to make sure we get good marks there as well. So if we look at how it's divided, there are two main phases to the PAT. There's the phase 1 and the phase 2. There is an interview part, which they consider the phase 3, but the main part is the phase 1 and the phase 2. And they've divided up into lots of little subtasks. So basically, the best way that I can summarize this is the phase 1 is going to revolve around creating a document where you're going to write about your design and your requirements for your PAT. It's always good to plan, and this way we are planning for the program that we are creating. The better we plan it, the more likely we are to succeed in the implementation part. This is going to be a document that we create, and then the phase 2 will be the part where we actually create the database and the actual program and get it to work the way we planned it to work. And then the phase 3 is going to be your interview that you have with your teacher to tell them exactly what you did, and they can see all your wonderful work. So these are the deadlines that they recommend for the tasks 1 to 5. That's the phase 1. It must be no later than the end of term 3, and then you are going to do most of the phase 2 in term 4. If we look at the mark allocation over here, you can see that phase 1 counts about 64 marks and the phase 2 counts about 70. So they're quite evenly matched with this interview and documentation at the end, with a total of 150. And here they specify that it counts 20% of your final exam mark. It is compulsory. You can't leave it out. It is something that you have to do. So please make sure you get in the habit of making sure that you do the PAT. So let's go look at the topic for your PAT for 2025. The topic is about a personal smart school assistant. It seems like it's talking about anything to do with the helping of your school, managing your school aspect. You need something that's going to help you focus on one of these subsystems. So they've really given you a wide variety of options here. For example, managing the tasks of a school, keeping track of a health tracker for a school, your phys ed, your hydration levels, your academic organizer. It seems like these are, as they said, personal smart school assistants. It's designed to help students at their school, helping you with your academics, maybe doing your timetabling or your homeworks, scheduling when you should be doing your studying, maybe having games and interaction. Yeah, that's nice aspects for your academic organizer, managing your finances, your donations and stuff like that, and maybe even a goal tracker. So they give you quite a few list of options here. There's a couple more here as well. Weather updates, motivational prompts, a student portal, resource allocation, maybe booking a lab, for example, or the equipment, energy, tuck shop, sports log. There's a whole bunch of options. And what I really like is they've given you a website for each of the options that you can look to go maybe get some ideas and see what they are talking about there. So something that's related to that particular event. So you don't have to do all of them. You just have to do one. Pick one of these subsystems that you can focus on, something that grabs your attention, and that's what you're going to create a program on. Yeah, they specify the requirements that you're not limited to those options, but as long as it fits around the personal smart school assistant, something that's particularly targeted for an individual to help them with their daily activities and school-based life. So it doesn't actually specify if it's a student. It could be for a teacher, but you may want to focus on creating something that's going to be really useful for students. what is required in the PAT? Well, it needs to have a database that you interact with. That's the crux of this whole system. Most systems you use have some sort of database that it interacts with, that stores the data. So we're going to need that for this project as well. If you leave out the database, you are going to give up so many marks because it revolves around database handling particularly. It must have multiple forms. In other words, there must be multiple screens that you interact with. And obviously you're going to be designing it very efficiently using good sound practices, good colors, good layouts, those type of things. There needs to be a text file that you interact with, and there needs to be an array that you use, as well as user-defined methods. That is your functions and your procedures. Now, if you haven't done all of this in class yet, you will obviously get to it. And as you learn about those concepts, you will add them to your PAT. Just speaking about the database, it must have at least 2 tables and have a lot of data to interact with. That's the best way you can test to see if your program is actually working. And we are going to access it using code. So there's going to be a lot of interactivity with the database via code. Your design, you need to have at least 2 screens or forms. Good design interacts with the database following all HCI principles like good button layout and so on. Must have a text file, as we said, and arrays and functions and procedures. So task 0, which is the research, is just basically go look at other programs and discuss what the purpose of your program is, what's the possible solution, the scope. Nice way to start preparing your ideas and brainstorming what you're going to do for your actual PAT. So our first task 1, has 2 parts to it. Defining our task, which is going to be answering those questions. I have a video on how to do this. It's very similar to what we do in grade 12, so you can go watch that video and see exactly how to do this. Then we're going to have user stories and acceptance tests. That's basically going to be a sentence where you follow the structure. As whoever is the person using the program, what is it they want to do? One aspect of the actual program, I want to log on, I want to be able to check this, I want to be able to register for a computer lab, something along those lines. And then what is the point of why you want to do that? So I can do this. It's a who, what, why. They give you some examples over here. They tell you about what you can use, for example, over here as a what is the actor or the role? What are the types of things that you can do? And so this is going to be your user stories. They are saying that you need to create them, use a table or a use case diagram to explain the different roles of the different users. There might be different types of users, but you need to let them know what are the things that they're going to do and why they want to do that. And then an acceptance test is when you use the story to identify the goals. For example, the point of the acceptance test is that the learner will be registered. So that's the acceptance test for that. So what they want you is to have 5 acceptance tests that needs to be identified from the 2 user stories that you create. So create 2 user stories, and then you must have 5 acceptance tests. Then your task 2 is going to be your data dictionary. That's where you're going to list all the things that your program is going to have and how all the data structures, all the variables, the components. So you're going to start off with all the variables and components that you need. Maybe have a table saying I've got this variable, that's its name, that's what it's used for. Create a nice little table for that. And then the components. So for each screen, you're going to say this is the component name, this is the type of component, and this is what it's used for. And also maybe indicate if they're local or global variables. And again, always use good naming conventions. Don't call it label 1. It must be LBL something. Use those 3-letter codes. Your variables should be I number or S surname. Make sure that your variables are correctly named and are the correct type. Arrays, you're going to discuss how you are using an array and give an example of what the array is going to look like. The same with the text file. Explain how you are going to use the text file. What is the point of the text file? What is the text file going to look like? What is the format of the text file? And then give an example of what it looks like. The user-defined methods, that's where you're going to list your functions and your procedures. Say this function is used for this. These are the parameters that it needs. This is the procedures that I need. This is what it's going to do, so on. So list all those things. If you have any other data structures, you can list them as well, but these are the main ones that you want to list over here. Now, the other data dictionary item is your database, but that's in a separate task. That's in task 3, where you are going to create a database with at least 2 tables. You can create a link between the tables, but that's not required for grade 11. In matric, definitely, but in grade 11, you just need 2 tables. So maybe you've got a table for your users and have the usernames and the passwords, and then you've got another table which has the data for what they're interacting with. So it's very easy to create 2 tables. You might want to create more, but make sure that they are meaningful and they've got the data that you want to store. Your navigation or flow between the screens, I've got a video for this as well, explaining exactly how you can create this diagram. We just make little blocks for the different screens and say this is going to move to this, which is going to move to that, telling us what the flow is going to be, and when I log out I'm going to go this way and so on, showing me the flow between the screens. I can basically, when I run your program, look at this and know exactly what to expect whenever I move from one screen to the next, and also include what's happening on the screens, give some functionality to what is the point to that screen. And then the IPO table and data validation. This is one of the biggest aspects of the rubric for your PAT for the phase 1, and it's sometimes the part that is done not as well as the others. So I really want to encourage you. It is my most important video regarding the phase 1, and that's my IPO video. That will tell you exactly how to do this table. I'll show you how to lay it out. I'll show you what to fill in for each part. It is very important that you get everything filled in for the IPO table. This is the place where most students lose marks, and a lot of time it's silly things that you could have gotten. You just had to fill in things. Make sure that you've got all these numbers that they're talking about. There must be 2 interfaces that you talk about. There must be 8 processes. Now those 8 processes don't have to be on both interfaces. You can have 8 spread over the 2 interfaces. So you might have 5 processes in the one diagram and 3 in the other. Then you have your 8. The same with these aspects, the 4 validation techniques and data types. You can split them over the 2 screens, but make sure that you've got all of those numbers. And then that will be your phase 1. That's all the top parts of the document. Once that's done, you can move on to your graphical user interface, which is you actually designing your screens, making sure that they're well designed. Get someone to look at your screens and say, hey, I don't like the layout of this. I would change this. I would change. Get some advice. It's always good to get someone else's opinion. And if you find it valuable, then implement those changes. And they give you some ideas over here of using good color, using dialogues, having shortcuts, having useful error messages. Those are all things you need to take into consideration when you are designing your screens. In your document, you can provide screenshots so that we can at least analyze and evaluate it there as well. When it comes to the database, again, I've got a video on that. It'll tell you exactly what to do. Make sure that you are naming your tables correctly. Make sure that you've got good field names. Make sure that you are editing the text fields sizes. Make sure that they are restricted. When we go through the database, we must see no text fields of 255 field size. You must have thought about what the size should be and limit how much should go in there. For example, you don't need 255 characters for a surname. Make it 30. That's a lot less characters that are going to be used. Telephone number, well, it can't go more than 10, so make it 10. Those are the types of things that you can do. And then make sure that your database connects to your program. I have 2 videos regarding that connection. I've got one that does the normal connection just statically. I would personally recommend you use the second video, which is the one connecting using code. That one's going to be a lot more smoother for you. Just follow the steps in that video, and that way you'll connect to your program dynamically. It helps you create a dynamic object. It makes it a lot smoother, especially if you're moving your PAT around to different computers when working on it. It causes the least amount of hassle. So I would really recommend that you use this video for your connection for the database. And then we get to the coding. That's just you implementing your arrays, your text files, your functions and procedures. And I've got tons of videos with examples of things that you can use. Those aren't examples of things for your particular project, but there are ideas that you can implement. For example, a login screen. Maybe there's an aspect to your PAT where you want a profile picture. So I'll show you how to use that. Lots of examples. You pick the ones that are relevant to you. Watch the video, see if it sparks an idea, and use the code to help you get an idea of how to implement it in your program. And then also make sure that you are manipulating the database in all aspects, that you're not only just reading information on the database, but you are inserting, removing, or deleting records, that you are updating records. Make sure that you're using all aspects of the database. And then once it's done, you're going to be doing your testing and data validation, where you're going to test it. You're going to write down what must be tested, why must it be tested, and when it will be tested, and how it be tested. And you use these scenarios to test your program. So something that looks like this, there's a test case, you give it a particular scenario, what is it that you gave it, and then what was the expected result. And you'll notice here for one test case, you can give it lots of different types of input, correct input if it's empty, and then see what the results are. So use this example to guide you for the testing and validation aspect. This you can include as a document in your phase 2 folder. And then project notes, you need to have notes that are for the user and notes for the developers. Now the developer notes, That is your comments. You need to have lots of comments in your code, letting everyone know what every aspect is doing. Don't leave this for the end. Whenever you add code, write a little comment about what's happening. What is this doing? What's that? It doesn't have to just be one line at the top of a button. Throughout the code, add little elements so that we know what each part is doing. That is really useful when you're doing your interview, because when they ask you questions on your code, you have your notes there to tell you exactly what that code's doing in case you forgot it. The notes for the user, that's going to be like a help file. You can tell them how to navigate the program, what they need to do. So that can be in the form of a document or a PDF, telling them exactly how to use the program. Maybe you want to create videos. Maybe you want to create little text files or information that pops up in the program, buttons that give you advice on how to use the different aspects. There are lots of ways of doing it. I have a video that explains how to do that as well. And then afterwards, you're going to do an interview where your teachers will sit down with you. They will discuss when that will be done, and they will ask you questions on your code and ask you, what does this code do? What did you find interesting about the path? They'll interview about the whole process to see how much you learned from that experience. If you are someone who's going to copy from other people, if you're going to do code that's not yours, then those are the people that are going to struggle with the interview, and we'll pick it up. So don't do that. Rather do the project yourself. Don't copy someone else's work, because this interview is going to be where you fall short, and then we'll know exactly what happened. Rather do everything yourself, and then you can be confident in your interview. Okay, so that's the main stuff. There's a rubric at the end which goes through all the different aspects of it. I would suggest you mark yourself with the rubric before submitting a phase so that you can see if you're going to get all the marks. If you say, I'm only going to get a 3 because I haven't got that, then go and put that part in. If you say, no, I haven't done arrays, well, then you're not going to get any of those marks. Go and do it. So this is a way to check that you've got everything done before you need to submit. So go through the rubric, making sure that you've got all the marks. So there you can see the breakdown. There you can see the RPO table, as I mentioned, is a big part of the phase 1. So make sure that you get that right. Coding is a big part of the phase 2. Make sure that you get all those aspects done. The coding includes things like all this database manipulation. Lots of marks over here that you for your database handling. Lots of marks for having good variables and components, the text files, the arrays. Make sure that you've got all of these elements in your pat. And then you have this document that you can put at the end where you can say that this is my work. You can mention any place that you got help from. And here's to declare that this is definitely my work. I have a digital copy of these documents that you can download and add it as a document to your PAT folder. Now, I've mentioned a lot of videos for the PAT. I've already created tons of them that are going to help you. They're designed for matric, but a lot of them are going to be useful for the grade 11 PAT anyway. So if you go to my YouTube channel at Mr. Long IT and CAT, this is what's going to help you. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you subscribe, because if I post more examples or more videos that can help, this is where you're going to be notified about it. So it will be really useful and helpful for the channel if you do that, but it's going to be beneficial to you if that happens. So go to the YouTube channel, then you come here to playlists, and then you scroll down till you get here, the PAT Phase 1 Guide for RT. If I click on that playlist, it starts off with a video that's going to help you get started. That's with your folder structure and the layout of your Word document for your phase 1. Then there's a video about how to create your database, a video for how to fill in the data structures. That's your data dictionary, the RPO table. That's exceptionally important. How to create sample data for your text files. There are videos here that can help you with those aspects. The only part that's really majorly different between grade 12 and grade 11 is that in grade 12 you do what's called object-oriented programming. You don't need to do those parts in your PAT. So any part of these videos that mention OOP or object-oriented programming, you can skip those elements, and your database doesn't have to be a relationship or relational database. But this playlist will help you with your phase 1. If I scroll down further to the IT PAT tips and hints, this has the exact same videos that I mentioned earlier, but it also includes videos for the phase 2. So ideas for your login screen, ideas on how to play a video, ideas on your administrator if you put them in your PAT, displaying images, creating a log file, a nice way to use a text file and an array. You don't have to worry about the object. Maybe you want to do some graphs, how to set up a main menu. So there are tons of videos here that can help you with your PAT, giving you examples. That's going to be a very useful tool for you. Now, another document that you can get that can really be useful is my PAT guide. I've got a guide which has all those videos and all the links to them. It's designed for matric, but as I said, if you just ignore the OOP part or the object part, then all of those resources are going to be useful for you as well. You can get yours at tinyurl.com/Mr. Long PAT guide, and you just put an RT at the end. It'll take you to something that looks like this. And there you can see it gives you advice on how to create your folder structure, the videos with the links of how to set it up. I even have a template document that you can have a look at. And there are links to all the videos, even with a little checklist. Now, this is the matric checklist, but yeah, you can see there the example videos for your phase 2. And if I scroll all the way to the end, there are those documents that you can download to put at the end with regard to your declaration of authenticity and so on. So this can be really useful for you. So the Mr. Long IT and CAT channel is going to be a really great tool for you. And hopefully this video is giving you an idea of what to do for your PAT. Now go think about the topic, go think about some ideas that you can implement, and good luck, grade 11s. When we post more videos about the PAT, it's going to be really useful if you are a subscriber to the channel. So make sure that you click on the subscribe button at Mr. Long IT and CAT. Also follow us on TikTok at Mr. Long Education. And remember, don't do it the long way, do it the Mr. Long way.